Welcome to the Two Beans in a Pod, the show where we distill complex information into the critical knowledge you need to be truly well-informed.
Today we're tackling a question that, for years, sounded like pure science fiction, but is now really central to policy and risk assessment.
And that question is a long-term widespread power grid failure actually a greater existential threat to modern civilization than, say, a major pandemic?
It sounds provocative, I know, especially after everything we've been through.
Right, but the scenario we're focusing on is what security experts call a black sky event. And this isn't, your local power outage that lasts 4 hours because a squirrel found the wrong transformer.
No, not at all. We are talking about a widespread, a complete grid-down catastrophe that could paralyze nations for weeks, maybe months, or even the worst cases, years.
And the reason the reason it eclipses a pandemic in some of these risk models is our total dependence on electricity.
Exactly. If the grid fails comprehensively, the collapse that follows is instantaneous. And it's terrifying. Communication networks, the financial system, access to clean water, sanitation.
Even the ability to pump gas for your car.
It all just stops almost immediately.
It absolutely sounds dystopian, and we are going to cover some pretty alarming facts in this deep dive. But the mission here isn't to scare you, it's to inform you.
That's the key. While the vulnerabilities facing the grid are very real and, frankly, compounding, there are concrete solutions. There are preparation steps for individuals and communities.
And we are going to detail exactly how you can increase your resilience at the end of this discussion. So stick around, because that personal agency, that's the most important takeaway here.
And if you appreciate us delivering this kind of detailed analysis and cutting through the noise, please take a moment right now, hit that like button, and subscribe to the channel. It genuinely helps us keep these breakdowns coming.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The core issue is that the electrical grid, especially across North America and, older parts of Europe, is under this unprecedented and simultaneous strain.
Right. It's a fundamental problem of aging infrastructure and really financial neglect, meeting these brand new 21st century demands.
So it's not just one thing failing.
It's systemic. The system was designed, 60 or 70 years ago for predictable static loads, and now it's getting hit by this exponential growth from two completely separate sectors. Personal transport and industrial computing.
Okay, let's start with transport. Electric vehicles. Their adoption has just hit a tipping point.
A huge one. By 2025, EV sales accounted for nearly 20% of new car sales. That's millions of new vehicles hitting the road.
And the strain isn't just the sheer number of them, right? It's when they get charged.
That's the synchronization problem. Most people get home from work, and what do? They plug in their EV, usually between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m.
Which is already peak demand time.
Exactly. It's when residential demand is already maxing out the system.
Yeah.
So this compound loading at the highest stress point of the day puts just a substantial strain on regional grids.
And that's what leads to things like brownouts or failures.
Yep. And while EVs are creating these synchronized spikes, you've got AI and data centers just pouring this continuous exponential demand onto the fire.
Right, the AI boom, it's incredibly power hungry.
It's massive. The appetite for energy from AI, from crypto, from cloud infrastructure, it's causing localized overloads. We saw reports in early 2025 about repeated power fluctuations, even brief outages in tech hubs.
Like Northern Virginia or Silicon Valley.
Precisely. New data centers are just overwhelming regional grids that were never, ever built for that kind of massive, continuous consumption.
And there's another layer to this that's fascinating. It's not just an electrical problem. You pointed out that a single data center can consume millions of gallons of water daily.
Millions. Just to cool its servers. So this tech revolution isn't just straining the electric grid, it's also putting a huge strain on municipal water systems, often in places already dealing with droughts and heat waves.
So it's this vicious cycle.
It is. You have surging demand meeting what is, frankly, a failing supply chain. We are retiring nearly 10% of what are called baseload power plants in just the next 4 years.
Okay, for listeners who might not be energy specialists, what do we mean by baseload?
Baseload is the power that's always on, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's generated by sources like natural gas, coal, hydro, and nuclear. It's the foundation. It provides stability.
And we're replacing that with?
Mostly solar and wind, which is great, but they are intermittent. And they lack the storage capacity at scale to bridge the gap left by those retiring baseload systems.
So we're swapping constant, reliable power for intermittent power without a big enough battery to back it up.
In a nutshell, yes. And while the generation is becoming less reliable, the physical network carrying the power is, well, it's decaying.
How bad?
The U.S. Department of Energy estimates we need 5,000 miles of new high-voltage lines every single year just to keep up.
5,000 miles. And how much are we actually building?
The reality is just staggering. In recent years, we've only managed to add somewhere between, say, 88 and under 900 miles annually.
Yeah, that's a massive gap.
It's a huge gap, and it translates directly into structural failure. Plus, these transmission projects can take 10 years or more to complete because of regulations, permitting, and right now, high inflation is driving up costs, delaying things even further.
So the system is brittle. It's structurally guaranteed to get more brittle. Let's talk about the triggers. What pushes this system over the edge?
Well, the single biggest driver of current outages is actually deceptively mundane. It's the weather.
Just weather.
That's right. Weather accounts for 80% of current disruptions. The data shows that the number of weather-related outages has jumped by almost 80% since 2011.
And we're seeing it. Hurricane Beryl in Texas left 3 million homes without power for weeks.
Winter ice storms in the Northeast snap power lines. And severe heat waves, which are becoming more common, can cause transformers to overheat and literally explode, creating these cascading local outages.
Beyond the natural stuff, though, we have to talk about the intentional threats.
We do. And I think people sometimes focus on, the cosmic threat, but we have immediate, persistent, intentional attacks happening right now. Cyber attacks on U.S. utility companies surged nearly 70% from 2023 to 2024.
And this isn't just random hackers in a basement. This is sophisticated state-sponsored stuff. We're talking Russia, Iran, North Korea, and particularly China.
Yes. The sources show that Chinese-linked hackers, through operations like Vault Typhoon, have gotten prolonged, quiet access to critical U.S. infrastructure.
So what's the goal there? Is it just to cause a blackout tomorrow?
Not necessarily. It's about pre-positioning malware. It's the ability for a hostile actor to be quietly embedded inside the system, waiting for a command to flip the switch during a broader conflict.
That is a terrifying thought, that the lights could go out because someone a world away decided to press a button. But what about, low-tech physical attacks? Are those still a thing?
Oh, absolutely. And they are chillingly effective. Physical attacks are still high, around 2,800 reports in 1 year. The Moore County, North Carolina example is the perfect case study.
What happened there?
Simple rifle fire. Someone targeted a few substations and plunged 60% of the county into darkness for almost a week.
Wow.
And experts and leaked federal reports warn that coordinated low-tech attacks on just 9 to 20 critical substations could cause a coast-to-coast blackout. The failure points are that concentrated.
Okay, now let's pivot to the one that gets all the headlines, solar flares, the natural EMPs.
Right. The big one everyone talks about is the Carrington event of 1859. It was so strong it caused auroras you could see in the Caribbean and literally set telegraph stations on fire.
And we know even moderate storms can be devastating. Look at that 1989 storm that caused the Hydro-Quebec blackout. 6 million people in the dark.
For 9 hours, yeah. That was decades ago, with a much less complex grid.
But this is where it gets tricky. I mean, are we being overly dramatic about this? Should we really be preparing for a once-in-a-century cosmic threat when, failing transmission lines are the problem right now?
That is the crucial question. You have some sources claiming superflares could be 10 times more powerful than Carrington. They talk about 2 to 4 year outages if we destroy our large transformers.
2 to 4 years?
Yeah, because those transformers take 18 months or more to replace, and they're often made overseas. That scenario is, well, it's apocalyptic.
But not everyone agrees.
No. Space weather experts push back hard on that kind of sensationalism. They argue that predicting flare strength years in advance is bullocks, to use their word, and that modern grids are better protected than the media suggests.
Okay, so there's a debate.
There is. But even the most cautious experts agree on two things. One, very strong flares exist, and they are inevitable, even if rare. And two, most grids are still not fully prepared for the largest possible events, especially when it comes to those huge, hard-to-replace transformers.
So regardless of the cause heat wave, cyber attacks, solar flare, this all leads to the same question. What happens when the lights stay off? Not for hours, but for weeks or months. This is where that cascade effect really hits home.
And we really need to mentally separate this from a short outage. When power is lost for a long time, all those societal interdependencies, they just start failing, almost immediately.
Let's walk through that timeline. What goes first?
Water and sanitation. Our clean water and sewer systems run entirely on electric pumps. Within about 72 hours, most municipal systems will fail.
Which means no drinking water.
No potable water and a massive sanitation crisis as raw sewage backs up. That's a recipe for widespread disease.
And the food supply chain, that's all just-in-time delivery and refrigeration.
And it collapses so fast. Fuel pump stops, so transport stops. The computerized logistics systems that track our food, they go dark. Refrigeration fails everywhere, from the warehouse to the supermarket to your home.
So within a week, all the fresh food is gone.
Gone. And then the problem shifts from a lack of electricity to a lack of safe water and viable food. And that is what drives social instability.
The impact on the health system, though, that feels like the most horrifying part. We're so dependent on high-tech medicine.
Think about it. Anyone relying on refrigerated medication like insulin, or on equipment like ventilators or dialysis machines, those systems usually only have backup power for a few days, tops.
There was that real-world example from Venezuela's blackout in 2019.
A tragic, perfect example. It was a 5-day nationwide blackout. Hospital staff literally watched patients die because critical systems failed. The lifts didn't work, so they couldn't move patients or supplies.
How many people died?
Estimates suggest at least 26 people died in hospitals during that single 5-day blackout, just because the staff couldn't access or operate the equipment they needed.
That timeline is it's sobering. I saw one study that estimated if a multi-day blackout hit a city like Phoenix during a heat wave.
The numbers are stark. Researchers estimate maybe 12,800 deaths from heat-related illnesses alone, simply because there's no air conditioning, no ventilation.
So this brings us to the core reason why this all matters. We've laid out that the system is fragile and the consequences are dire. But instead of just dwelling on that fear, let's pivot. What can we as individuals actually do?
Exactly. What agency do we still have?
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Look, the grid isn't going to magically get stronger overnight, but you can fundamentally change your own vulnerability. Every single step you take toward independence makes you less susceptible when these systems fail.
And preparation is about building resilience, not giving into fear. We recommend a sort of 4-step framework, all grounded in expert recommendation.
Okay, let's hear it. Step 1.
Step 1 is reducing your personal immediate dependency. And this requires a really honest assessment. Walk through your day. Identify what you rely on for critical needs: medical, water, communication.
For example,
if you need refrigerated medicine, your first step is buying a small, battery-powered cooler. Right now. If you have an electric stove, you need a backup, like a little propane camp stove, something that operates independently.
Okay, that makes sense. Step 2.
Step 2 is investing in physical backup systems and supplies. Look into a reliable backup power source. It doesn't have to be a giant whole-house generator. A small gas or solar generator to run the fridge, a medical device, and maybe your Wi-Fi router.
And supplies, food and water.
The Electric Infrastructure Security Council recommends a 2-week supply of non-perishable food and water. That 2-week margin is what buys you time when the logistics fail.
Step 3 is the practical test. Assess your dependency in real time.
I love this one.
Yeah.
Take one day and live without power. Turn off the main breaker. No internet, no fridge, no electric lights, and just see what happens.
And you find all the hidden weaknesses.
All of them. Was the electric garage door your only way out? Is your phone useless because it's internet-based? Do you have any cash? You find a low-tech solution for every single weakness you discover.
And finally, you say to expand preparedness outward. Community resilience.
Because you are dramatically stronger together. If the community is prepared, the burden on first responders is lighter and things get restored faster. So explore neighborhood networks, mutual assistance groups.
For sharing resources.
You could trade your spoiling freezer food for a neighbor's dry goods. You can share a solar backup system to charge everyone's critical devices.
That's a powerful point. It's moving from isolated survival to collective resilience.
Exactly. Focus on low-tech solutions that bypass the grid entirely. Solar ovens, passive cooling systems. Learn backup communication, like ham radios. The most powerful thing you can prepare is knowledge. The knowledge of what to do when the normal systems break down.
And that really is the critical knowledge from this deep dive. We've mapped out these compounding threats to our grid, from flawed infrastructure and surging demand to cyber warfare and extreme weather.
It's a complex problem, and the big bureaucratic entities are struggling to fix it quickly. But by prioritizing resilience at the individual and community level, you regain agency. You dramatically reduce your vulnerability to the next disruption, whatever it is.
Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss our next detailed analysis.
Thank you for listening to Two Beans in a Pod. Please order the book from the link below.